Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out to allow me to share with you. Thank you, Ben, Terry, Creative Mornings, for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank God because it is by His grace that I'm here and that I'm here today and able to do what I'm able to do. I tell people I take credit for being obedient, and that's all I take credit for, and doing what I'm told to do. As Ben said, I'm Dave Christopher, the Executive Director and co-founder of AMPed. And this morning I want to talk to you guys about three things. One is ideas, creativity, and the focus, which is reality. So let me begin. So reality is defined in the Webster's Dictionary as the true situation that exists, the real situation, something that actually exists or happens, a real event, occurrence, or situation. I grew up in a low-income housing in Gary, Indiana. Both of my parents were disabled. My father had been in an accident that injured his back, and because he was of a poorly done surgery, he walked partially bent over. He also suffered from diabetes and stomach cancer. My mother suffered from an undiagnosed case of Parkinson's and spent the majority of her time in bed because of the tremors. I say all that to say this, that we had very limited resources. I was working when I was 12 years old. There was a guy that lived across the alley from us who used to buy broken down cars, and he would fix them and then resell them. And I convinced this guy to let me clean the cars up before he sold them, and maybe he could get more money. And so I kind of had a detail shop before I knew what a detail shop was, right? Creativity, right? Right. So when I was growing up, creativity was my friend, and poverty was my reality. If you had cornflakes and no milk, then pet milk or sugar water would do. If you had bread and no meat, then there was a mayonnaise sandwich. That was creativity. There was one Christmas where my parents weren't able to buy, us Christmas presents, so my father took 10 silver dollars that he had saved up, and he wrapped them in Christmas paper. He wrapped 5 for me and 5 for my brother and put them under the tree. Merry Christmas, right? Now, you may be thinking that this guy really had it tough as a kid, and how sad it is, but quite the contrary. We were very happy. As I'm sure many of you may know, life is really about perception. This is what we knew, and as far as we knew, everybody lived like we did. This was our reality. Our parents loved us, and we loved them. On top of that, my father often helped out others. He was a Baptist preacher and the pastor of our church, and when the church would pay him for being pastor, he would give the money back every Sunday except the first Sunday, and that was my favorite Sunday because that was Kentucky Fried Chicken Sunday, right? I knew when he had that envelope in his hand, he got in the car, he kept the money, and we were eating at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So that was really cool. So now let's fast forward to December of 2013. I had some friends that had a nonprofit, and I wanted to help them out by making a donation. They needed beds, linens, and some other things for a building that they had moved into. I thought I could do that, or I could come up with a way to do more. So I came with an idea. What if I created a business in the building that they owned and gave the profit from the business to them as a donation, and a few months later, March 2014, we were having the grand opening for Level 7 Recording Studio. AMPed has a similar beginning. It was born from a desire to help. Just prior to AMPed coming into existence in May 2015, the city was getting ready for the Festival of Faiths, and the city was experiencing increased youth violence and disruption. Mayor Fisher was interested in trying to attract young people to the Festival of Faiths and to see if they might be interested in a new youth program, and we came up with the idea for a youth music program, and AMPed was born. Everyone has at one time or another faced some sort of obstacle, stumbling block, or setback in your life. If not you, then someone you know has faced an obstacle, stumbling block, or setback in their lives. On your job, in business, in your relationship, whether you're married or dating, that was or possibly still is your reality. So the question is, what do you do? I deal with kids every day that have a reality that is as bad, if not worse, than mine was. They come from broken homes, surrounded by drugs and violence, and a school system and a society that simply doesn't understand them. Some of our kids have, as I did, a mother and father in the home, but limited resources. They're labeled as violent, lazy, disrespectful, and stupid. That is their reality. I decided to make their reality my reality and do all in my power to provide them with the resources, love, and support to change their reality if they choose to do so. I am committed to changing the negative outcomes that our youth face and turning those dreams that they have for success and happiness into their new reality. I saw young people struggling and their parents being vilified, and I had had enough of hearing that our kids need to learn to be more productive. We tell them to do something better, but we don't give them anything better to do that can possibly transform their lives. And I'm not talking about ping pong or basketball. At AMPed, we are trying to give our kids life skills and the support and resources that they need to be successful. I'm always blown away when I see what our kids do with the support and resources that we provide. We have a program called Renaissance, a partnership with AMPed and JCPS. We combine literacy and in the music industry. Just recently, one of our students, Diallo Thornton, won a national essay contest on To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. He was selected from 400 students nationwide. He received a $1,000 scholarship, and his poem was published in the Huffington Post. Our kids are improving academically, and their behaviors have improved greatly. One of our parents called me once, and she said, "I just want to call and tell you thank you." And I go, "Okay, you're welcome." And she's like, "No, you don't get it. Thank you, really." I go, "Okay, got it." She says, "No, you really don't get it." She said, "I've lost jobs because of my son. Because I had to leave work so much that the job fired me because of his behavior. And since he started at AMPed, his grades have gone up, his behavior is better, he's a different kid." And that's just a couple of the stories. At AMPed, they can learn songwriting, how to play musical instruments, voice lessons, music theory, music business, videography, photography, web design, audio and video engineering, and performance. I teach a coding class of about 15 high school boys. Out of that 15, this summer, 6 of those young men will start their own business. These are freshmen and sophomores and juniors in high school that are now about to get on the entrepreneur track. AMPed is more than just a music program. We are not working just to produce great musicians, writers, engineers, or singers. We are working to produce great human beings. So what will you choose? Will you work harder for the next big promotion? Will you slam the door on that safe and secure job you hate and strike out on your own? Will you start a new business, write the next best-selling novel, or paint a masterpiece? Will you trust that idea that you have for reducing carbon emissions can really work? That your business idea is a great one and that you do have what it takes to succeed? Will you come and volunteer at AMPed and make a difference in these kids' lives or some other worthy cause? It's up to you. Your reality is what you make it. Your reality is under your control. What will be your reality? Thank you.
I wanted to kick off. We're going to go into a little Q&A here, so be thinking of some questions to ask Dave. But could you explain a little bit more of what some of these projects you guys are doing within AMPed with the kids? Like, what are some of the stuff you guys are working on?
Well, like I said, one of the programs is called Renaissance, where we take, what happened was there was an issue with literacy rates and academic achievement and such. So what we decided was, like, the whole idea is to kind of reach the kids where they are. And so we came up with this idea to take a novel, like they would read a novel and then they journal and they kind of get into that. We have a JCPS teacher that comes in and helps them to get through the book and they examine it. But then they don't just stop there. They take that and they write either a poetry, spoken word, song, and then they videotape the whole process and they take pictures. And then at the end they create a product and they present that to their peers. And then we have another program. It's a coding program where we teach web design. We also have different performances where the kids come in, they learn an instrument. So they'll write a song. We've got a lot of kids that have written some original songs. And so they write the song, then they'll go in and they'll create the music for it. And then they record it and then they perform it. We've actually got 4 performances this month. We've got 2 out of the way. But real quick, my family over here, if you guys can stand up real quick. And real quick, anybody else that's actually had any involvement with AMPed, if you could please stand up. Thank you. All right, cool. All right. So some of the programs, we got a lot of support from a lot of great organizations, and I get it, and I tell my kids all the time, and a lot of times we're dealing with kids that don't get that. They don't get that people love them and care about them. And when you guys show up like you do, that says something that's outside of their norm, right? Because everybody says, nobody cares about you, nobody's concerned about you, but when you guys show up, Mr. You didn't stand up, did you? Okay, that's all right. but anyway, so that's so.
Yeah, that's great. Are there any questions out here? Just raise your hand and shout it out.
I'm curious about how many children are coming to your.
Oh man, yeah.
And if there's a waiting list, and if there's a waiting list, how could you expand?
Okay, so let's see. We average about 15 kids a day. We're there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We average about 15 kids a day. In 2014, when we first started, I remember these numbers because I just used them in New York, but it was like 475 kids in 2014. In 2015, we moved into a bigger building, 3,000 square foot building on 4425 Greenwood Avenue, and we served over 1,200 students. This year, we're already at about 700 served. The issue is, and I'm glad you asked that question, the issue is that the capacity is not the issue, the volunteers are the issue, right? So that's the toughest thing, is trying to find folks, and I know everybody means well, and everybody's busy, we're all busy, but, and I was telling somebody, the reason we don't really push it like we want to is because we only have a handful of volunteers. And so until we can have folks, if the kids are there, we gotta, to someone's point is, you don't have to be musically inclined to volunteer at AMPT. You just have to care about kids. Because a lot of times we're sitting around, and my guys will tell you, we're sitting around and these kids are saying crazy stuff, and we're there to tell you that's crazy. You know what I mean? Or like, you know, like say, I don't know what the different occupations in here are, but like I'm a tech guy, right? So they may come in for music, and then they find out that Mr. Dave is a web designer or a coder or computer repair, and I'm interested in that. I had a kid come in and wanted to be a rapper. And so we always ask him, we like, okay, yeah, that's cool. We'll give you everything you need to do that. But what else, if you didn't do that, what else would you do? And the kid was like, you know, I kind of think I might want to be a nurse. Well, how cool is that? We have the guy that DJs at night, but he's an emergency room nurse as his occupation. So we bring that guy in to talk to this kid, right? So that's how you come, just, you know, the power of presence is like huge. People think, okay, I had somebody say this to me and it really kind of irked me when they said it, but they say, well, I don't want to come and just do nothing. I go, so you're saying in being in the presence of kids, just being there for them if they have a question or just want to talk to somebody is nothing? So if we don't have like something specifically for you to do, you're not coming? Don't think that way. Just being there is important, because these are kids people don't show up for. And if you show up, that's a lot. I think, is that the question? Okay.
My question is, how does, I'm interested in youth entrepreneurship personally, so I'm glad you brought that up. Explain to us how that works. Was that something that's just happened informally, or is developing a youth entrepreneurship pipeline a part of what AMP actually does?
Yeah, so the question was about whether entrepreneurship within the program is intentional or if it was just something that came about. And actually for me it was intentional, because that's my story, right? So my belief is, and my father taught me this when I was a kid, and that's why I mentioned in my story that I started working at 12 years old, is my father taught me that if nobody will hire you, hire yourself. A lot of times our kids are faced with excuses. I mean, and there's sometimes legitimate stuff. It's like that's the way it is. But what I tell people is the way you empower yourself is to do it yourself. You know, don't complain about other people's stuff. If you want to get ahead, then do something that you can do, right? So entrepreneurship, and that's why we have the coding class, and that's why in the summertime through the Summer Works program, when young people come in, we're training them on, we're talking to them about how to start business. I don't care if it's a lawn care business. It has nothing to do with music. That's okay. We're talking about you becoming your own boss. And just as a note, and I'm sure all you entrepreneurs out here know this, if you're lazy, don't do it. Stay where you are. I'm serious, if you're lazy, don't. And people say that to me like, oh, I want to own my own business. No, you don't. No, you don't. I went to bed at 2 o'clock this morning. I got up at 6, right? You would never do. You only get out of bed at 10. So.
Any other questions? Right here.
How are the kids finding your program? I mean, these are kids that were going to school or had issues, and how are they ending up in AMP?
Because we do outreach, and we do a lot of performances. We're out in the public a lot, and so through the school system, JCPS, through an organization called Right Turn, we receive people to the juvenile justice system, parents that tell other parents, and it's funny because you would think our kids would be like our campaign people, right? They would go out and tell other kids. They don't. And I'll tell you why. I get it. Because they don't want anybody to know what they're doing. It's like, this is cool. I don't want you in here messing my stuff up. You know, it is. It's kind of funny. It's like, why didn't you tell your friends about it? Well, they don't need to be here. Like, so, yes, sir.
What do you think are the most in demand, either skills or processes, at least from the kids' side? What are they coming in and saying, I really want to learn how to do X, Y, or Z? What are some of the most popular?
We know what's funny is that most, and it doesn't even surprise me, most kids, because media is what it is, most kids come in thinking they're going to be rappers or singers, right? I want to rap, I want to sing, and that's fine. But what we do, because that's the program, is that we have everything related to the music business. So we're talking about writing contracts, doing marketing, web design. There's so many things in there, right? So you come in with that idea that you want to sing or rap, but you know what? You may not be a great singer. And that's okay, because everybody hits the stage with us. And that's the other thing is that if your kid comes to us, everybody hits the stage, whether good or bad. Like I said, we're not like a hit factory. We're not trying to crank out these stars. We're trying to crank out good kids. So they come in with that, but what they end up finding out is, like, they want to do our engineer John Powell. Oh, by the way, can we all congratulate Red Biddix? We found out we got an amped baby coming. So anyway, they come in with those ideas that they want to rap or sing, but it's funny because they typically will end up wanting to be an engineer or wanting to do photography or want to do production work. They want to be the person that sets up the stage and different stuff like that. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What's the first step to get involved when you volunteer?
So online there's a volunteer registration form that you can fill out on the AMP Louisville website. You fill that out. We actually have, through JCPS, we do our background check. So what you do is you fill out the application, the form online, or you can come into the building, 4425 Greenwood Avenue, fill out the form, and then we'll have you go online and fill out your background check. And if you already done a background check through JCPS, then that's fine. You just let us know that, and we'll just verify it. And then you come in, and what you'll tell us is, right now we're Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5 to 8. We would love to be open 5 days a week, but again, because we don't have the staff to do that, we just can't. So then you'll tell us when you can, and get this, I said this to some guys the other day, was that we had 350 people here. If everybody here volunteered one day out of in the next 3 months for 2 hours, then we would never have to ask for a volunteer. So you would only have to volunteer once every maybe 3 months. I don't know if that math's right. Is there the math person here? My point is that if we got more volunteers, you wouldn't have to volunteer. So when you think about the time commitment, it's not as big as you think it is if we get everybody involved. So does that answer the question, I think? Okay.
Maybe one more question right here.
So what inspired you to make the music the focus?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
What inspired you to make the music the focus?
Well, he's going to be embarrassed, but I'm going to tell a story anyway. My son is sitting here on the front row. So I moved here to Louisville from Atlanta to get custody of my son. He was, I think, 11 or 10, or about to turn 11. And so I moved here. I don't know anybody other than people I work with and don't really know them because I just met them. Because I asked my job to transfer me from Atlanta to get custody of my son. And so I'm laying on the couch watching Jeepers Creepers on TV. He's on the floor, and I'm panicking because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this young man. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So I asked him, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And he said, yeah, I want to be a producer. I was like, okay, cool. So I went to bed, fine, I'm good. He gets up early the next morning and comes in my room and was like, Dad, I really want to do that. I'm like, you really want to do what? It's like, I want to, I was like, okay, cool. So I bought a book on how to be a record producer. I bought a book on how to start a recording studio, right? A record company. And so we made a promise, we had a pact that day, that you do your part, I'll do my part, right? Everything that you want, you do your half, I'll do my half. You do nothing, I do nothing. And so the first thing he bought was, I think, a recorder, a 4-track recorder. He paid half. He found a way to make the money to pay half. I paid half. He bought a drum machine. And so I promised him when we move into a house bigger, because at the time we were in like a little bitty apartment. And so we moved into a house big enough that I would put a recording studio if you stuck to it. And he stuck to it. And so that was the beginning of it. I mean, I realized, and then I got to thinking, you know what? That was how I connected with my son. And it worked. I mean, he's graduated from Western Kentucky University. He's finished 2 albums. He's out there on his own. He ain't living in our house no more. So, you know what I mean? So it works. So that's my connection. I mean, it's like I figured, okay, and then I was like, okay, it works. And the next real kid that we actually encountered was a kid named Mitez Trice. He was coming up to the building before the recording studio was even open because he had heard about it. And so this is the kid I talked about that had, such behavior problems that he was just raising, can I say that? Raising hell? Yeah. He was causing a lot of problems, right? So that was the beginning of it, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's give Dave a round of